There is a hunger inside a narcissist that is not about vanity, admiration, or even power. It is something darker, deeper, and more desperate, a hunger for existence itself. Without attention, praise, or emotional reaction from others, their sense of self begins to crumble, as if their very identity is fading into nothingness. What you are about to uncover is not just the psychology of ego, it is the anatomy of emotional addiction. This is the truth behind narcissistic supply, the invisible fuel that keeps their fragile illusion of superiority alive, and their inner emptiness hidden. Narcissistic supply refers to any external source of emotional nourishment that reinforces the narcissist's inflated sense of self. It functions like an addiction. Once supply is provided, the narcissist feels momentarily powerful, affirmed, and real. When the supply fades or is withdrawn, the narcissist falls into a psychological freefall. The supply does not have to be positive. Even fear, frustration, jealousy, and emotional chaos can count as supply. As long as the narcissist is the emotional center of the room, they feel alive. This need for constant external validation is rooted in an internal emptiness. Narcissists do not have a stable sense of identity. They construct one through other people's reactions. This is why they rely on admiration in a way that is compulsive, primitive, and endless. A narcissist cannot sit alone within themselves comfortably because their self-image requires witnesses in order to exist. The origin of this dependency is psychological fragility, not confidence. Narcissists spend their lives performing a false self, a carefully crafted persona built to conceal deep shame, inadequacy, and fear of rejection. This false self must be constantly polished and fed. Supply is the social fuel that keeps the illusion intact. If people worship them, they feel superior. If people envy them, they feel important. If people fear them, they feel powerful. If people chase them or obsess over them, they feel desired. Every look, reaction, and emotional response becomes another confirmation that their self-image is still intact. The tragedy is that none of the validation ever fills the void. It only temporarily patches the cracks. The emptiness always returns, forcing them to seek more. There are two main forms of narcissistic supply. The first is admiration-based supply, which includes compliments, praise, status, fame, attention, romantic pursuit, and being perceived as special, exceptional, or superior. The second is emotional control-based supply, which includes fear, obsession, jealousy, arguments, emotional dependence, and the feeling of owning another person's mind or reactions. This second category is often misunderstood, yet it is the most important. Narcissists do not only seek admiration, they seek psychological dominance. If they cannot be adored, they prefer to be feared. If they cannot be respected, they want to be envied. If they cannot be praised, they settle for chaos, because even chaos keeps them at the center. Total indifference is the worst wound a narcissist can experience, because it means they no longer exist in the emotional landscape of the other person. This is why narcissists despise people who withdraw, go silent, detach emotionally, or become unavailable. The moment supply is cut off, the narcissist experiences a form of ego starvation. They begin to panic, rage, or launch smear campaigns, all in an attempt to reassert emotional control. Narcissistic rage is often triggered precisely when supply is threatened. Random anger, but a desperate attempt to regulate a cracking identity. When someone exposes them, rejects them, ignores them, or refuses to give emotional reactions, the narcissist feels humiliated. That humiliation is experienced as annihilation. Their entire psychological structure is built upon never being wrong, never being ordinary, and never being powerless. If supply is taken away, all three of those illusions collapse at once. Narcissists also rotate supply sources because no single person can feed their bottomless need for validation forever. They create cycles of idealization, devaluation, and discard not because they are changing their feelings but because they are managing their supply flow. A new admirer, lover, or audience gives them a fresh surge of fuel. Once familiarity sets in and the supply becomes less potent, the narcissist begins extracting negative supply by provoking insecurity, emotional distress, or dependency. When that stops working, the narcissist moves to alternative supply to maintain the illusion of grandiosity. Relationships are not about emotional connection for the narcissist. They are about resource extraction. This is why people often feel spiritually drained after engaging with a narcissist. It is not an accident. Narcissists feed on emotional energy. They do not connect, they consume. They are not forming a bond. They are tapping into a fuel source. This is also why empathy threatens them. Genuine empathy exposes vulnerability and requires emotional reciprocity. Narcissists cannot reciprocate emotional intimacy because it pierces the mask. Authentic connection forces them to confront the emptiness behind their grandiosity. To avoid this exposure, they control the dynamic, ensuring that relationships revolve around their emotional needs rather than a mutual exchange. Many people misunderstand narcissistic supply as something superficial or arrogance-driven, but its roots are psychological collapse avoidance. A narcissist has an internal narrative that they are exceptional, superior, chosen, envied, or more important than others. This narrative cannot survive reality without reinforcement. The outside world must reflect the grandiosity back to them in order for them to feel real. Without validation, the narcissist does not simply feel insecure. They feel psychologically erased. This is why supply is not a want. It is a need as fundamental to them as water to the body. Their self-esteem does not come from within. It is constructed entirely from external proof. Over time, this leads to a paradox. The more supply they chase, the more dependent they become on it. Every hit of admiration reinforces the belief that without attention, they are nothing. They become trapped in their own performance. They cannot step off stage, because stepping off stage would expose the emptiness behind the curtain. Even success does not satisfy them. Even love does not soothe them. Even loyalty does not ground them. They need intensity, not authenticity. They need emotional reaction, not emotional connection. They need reflection, not reciprocity. If a narcissist loses their primary supply source, they experience something close to psychological withdrawal. They may become depressed, paranoid, unstable, or vindictive. The ego is collapsing and they will do anything to secure a new stream of supply before the collapse becomes unbearable. This can appear as sudden charm, hoovering tactics, love bombing, dramatic reinvention, or aggressive smear campaigns to regain control. The goal is always the same: re-establish emotional dominance, secure admiration, or regain psychological relevance. There is another hidden layer to narcissistic supply: the concept of anticipatory control. This is the narcissist's ability to manipulate emotional energy before it even happens. They don't just react to supply, they plan it, engineer it, and set emotional traps to guarantee it. Every conversation, compliment, or confrontation is subtly designed to draw energy toward them. For example, they might intentionally withdraw affection to make you chase their approval, or they may create jealousy to make you prove your loyalty. This constant push and pull keeps them in the psychological driver's seat. They study what makes people react, and once they know the trigger, they use it repeatedly to ensure a predictable flow of emotional supply. This is why their relationships often feel like a performance where every emotion you feel is carefully orchestrated. They cannot trust genuine affection because it is unpredictable, and unpredictability threatens their control. So, they manufacture scenarios that guarantee attention, even if it means pain or conflict. In the narcissist's world, it's not about love or peace, it's about control and certainty. Anticipatory control is their insurance policy, a way to secure their existence before the emptiness returns to consume them once again. Another crucial point about narcissistic supply is the collapse of the mask, the moment when the false self can no longer hold together under pressure. This usually happens when the narcissist's main sources of supply simultaneously weaken or disappear. The loss of admiration, control, or attention exposes the raw, unfiltered self they've spent years hiding. During this phase, the narcissist often spirals into emotional chaos, depression, paranoia, or uncontrollable rage. They might retreat in isolation, frantically rebuild their image, or lash out to destroy the people they blame for their downfall. This collapse is not just emotional pain, it's psychological disintegration. Without the mask, they have no identity, no confidence, no inner structure to stand on. What's left is the original wound, the terrified child inside who learned to survive through illusion. The mask collapse is both their greatest fear and inevitable fate, because no illusion can last forever. Every narcissist eventually faces the emptiness they've been running from, and in that silence, the truth is revealed. Their grandiosity was never strength. It was a shield protecting a shattered self that never learned how to simply be. The deeper tragedy is that a narcissist is addicted to something that will never heal them. Supply can only maintain the illusion. It can never build a real self. It can never create inner worth. It can never fill the void. The narcissist remains forever hungry because the thing they seek externally is the thing they lost internally long ago. Narcissistic supply is not love. It is anesthesia. It numbs the wound without healing it. Narcissistic supply is not love, respect, or validation. It is survival fuel for a fractured self, a constant chase to silence the emptiness within. Every compliment, every fear they provoke, every ounce of admiration only feeds an illusion that can never truly be satisfied. Beneath the charm and confidence lies a desperate dependency, one that consumes both them and those who get too close. To understand narcissistic supply is to see the truth behind the mask that power, attention, and control are not their strengths, they are their oxygen. Subscribe to Psychanatomy for more deep psychological insight.